minutes before we start.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's probably as good as it's gonna get.
Oh, you can still try it. It's Zoom. Zoom without technical issues is a myth.
Yeah. I'll also try doing computer audio in the meantime, because I start at 10:45, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, you can share screen the computer audio and see how that goes through.
All right.
Yeah, or a video of a past performance. Sometimes people do that to, if the microphone is having an issue.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
Yeah. And also you can DM any of us if you have links or if there's anything else. And that goes for everyone else also in the chat. Like if there's any audio issues or anything, DM one of us and then yeah.
Oh, Henry. Henry is here. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Kate, just to check in, we're live, right? But we're not started yet. So Henry, did you need to test anything?
Oh
before
yeah,
we
let me
begin?
test the sound. I forgot the sound check. Let me test the sound.
Beautiful.
This sound playing? Is it?
I'm
not sure.
That didn't. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Let's try again. I'll share the sound. I forgot. I don't know. Is it playing?
I heard sound, but it wasn't, clear. Like it didn't sound like typical screen
I
audio.
think,
but
yeah. Oh, add on this sound. Yeah.
That's right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then it's good.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, on that note, I guess, Kate, I think we're ready?
I think we're ready, yeah.
Right?
Kofi, do you want to take it away as monitor and first presenter?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Wait, am I loud enough? Everyone can hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, welcome to the 4th session of HLCI 2022. Prior to this, we had sessions on identity, sessions on education, and voice. And now today, to end it off, we are doing embodiment and movement. And today we're going to explore once again live coding beyond the screen. So today we are going to go into the performance, what goes in the mind, and talk about how the human body is not neglected while coding. And to start it off, I'm going to do a little live coding body piece. So if everyone goes and think about it like, when you're usually in an in-person thing, we usually stretch around while a long day. So it's going to be like a live coded, like be in tune in our body, which goes well with the concept. So let me just switch my screens. First, what we're going to do while you hear the sound is just let that slow tempo that you're hearing control the move. Maybe you might want to move your hand. Maybe you want to move your head. Maybe you want to just close your eyes and let the rhythm control. Whatever your body is telling, this is what the music is selling. Maybe it's flowing to the rhythm of your heartbeat. Maybe you're flowing as this is giving you a nice rhythmic treat. Maybe it's reminiscent of how the blurs just fly, or how the words that I'm saying are rhyming with a particular movement. Let's just go with how slow and how it flows with the code. Gradually picking up pace. Maybe you might feel like with your hands you shall play, or with your body have a little tempo, a little bit of sway. Maybe now your heart is beating a bit louder. Maybe now the thoughts that you had in your head are making you wonder. Wonder on the ponder. Wander while your soul is wandering and your mind is thinking, and maybe your eyes stop blinking, or maybe they are keeping blinking. But maybe, so maybe your heart is rolling, maybe your mind is folding. So let's enjoy a little mimic. As you can see, maybe we need to stretch. Maybe we have to see what's inside our bodies and how to connect. Maybe with our breaths, we can just do what this cube is doing and stretch in and breathe in. Stretch out. Roll out. Maybe we have a little tension on our necks. Maybe we have a little crack in our shoulder. Maybe we just gotta get it loose. Or maybe some cases get it tight. Because loosening everything is not gonna make the sky so bright. Maybe sometimes we just gotta listen. And maybe that is just what makes things right. Just like this image, just like this box, it transforms. It morphs. There could be a lag. There could be just a moment that things just stay. Just like the code says. Now there's a kind of blur. There's a blur that goes with the movement, with the motion. Is this countering or engaging with what you're feeling, your emotion? Do you feel like you need some thoughts to just evaporate? Or is it just thoughts that linger? Is there more that's happening with this motion? Is it the lingering, or is it that the code that I type with my fingers? Let these be some moments of reflections while we go through movement and all its introspections, all the nature where we practice things from consent to respect. And maybe then we can see how it truly becomes a moment to reflect and inspect. And that's how we're starting off. Some just words, some randomness, because that is true embodiment at times. Just being random, just listening to ourselves. So, without further ado, let's start with the first presentation. Sabrina, if you are ready to go, it is your time.
Hi everyone. Hi, my name is Sabrina Sims. My pronouns are she, her. My presentation today is my presentation slash talk is today is going to be about emotional body circuits. So I started thinking about this concept because last year is when I really got into performing with my synthesizer. So I actually have it right here. This is my Micro Freak. And I really like it because it has it has a lot of like fine tuning, and the keyboard is like actually a PCB, so it's touch sensitive. And I think what really made me develop the idea of body circuits is that I noticed that when I play my synthesizer, I can actually feel like the electric I can feel like the electricity in the keys, which is like pretty cool. I can like feel like the flow of it. It kind of registers as like vibration to me. And as I started getting into performing, I also noticed that like playing my synthesizer has like a really tactile emotional element to it. And it's like definitely allowed me to be more in tune with my body, especially in the context of playing, because like I remember my first performance, which was actually almost exactly a year ago. I like was like dripping with sweat, and I was like anxious and panicking. And I think that's like, pretty much like most people that perform experience that. But as time went on, like I noticed that like the first thing I would do when I performed was like try and ground into my body. So, I would like try and like take a deep breath and like, figure out where I was in like space. And also like I would also try and connect with how the audience felt. So as I played my synthesizer, the music would change how I felt, and also felt like it would change how the audience felt too. So in that way, playing music becomes like an emotional circuit. And all of us like, inhabit a body. So it becomes a body circuit. And I also like connected that to, like, getting acupuncture too, because I go to acupuncture as a treatment for like a chronic illness I have. And the basically it's about like bringing your body into harmony. And I feel like also like music is bringing your body into like harmony, and like kind of like a flow, and like trying to like basically like recenter yourself, and like kind of like work through like any like maybe like tactile feelings you have, or just kind of like move through any kind of thing you're experiencing. So yeah, I'm just gonna like play my synthesizer for like a minute and hopefully you can hear like the audio. That was less than a minute, but basically I wanted to explain that like when I was doing that, I was actually like, consciously trying to see like how I can like move my body and like expand like the range I have. And I also really like felt the kind of like, heavy like electricity of it. So yeah. If anyone has any like questions for me or like thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
Kate has a question, Melody has a question, so I will let them start.
Cool.
Kate, if you want to chime in, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, you're just clapping. My
You're
bad.
just happy.
They're clapping. So if we don't, I would like to like ask one question, but you sort of were explaining it because I noticed when you were performing, you really were opening up your body. You know, like it was evident that you were checking your lows, going with the highs, and then even your eyes were moving a bit up and all that. So would you say that while you're performing, your body tries to open up space? And do you know if it's like, are you trying to go to any particular direction?
Yeah, thanks for that observation. Yeah, I was like definitely trying to like, I feel like to me when I play, like I kind of have some sort of like synesthesia with it. So it's like if people aren't familiar with like synesthesia, it's basically like one sense like turns into something that's like more abstract. So to me, like it kind of like feels like I can like feel like the energy almost. So I was like trying to like manipulate that and like I was trying to like move the sound around from like something heavy to something more light. So yeah,
So when it's light, would that be when you're moving upwards, you would say, or at the
yeah,
opposite direction?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, even like with the actual keys, I was like when I was like trying to lighten up, I was going higher in my like on my keyboard.
Mm. And if we don't have any other one, I will just keep asking another question. Because I am very interested on this circuit, right? Because you know, circuits is like turning, switching on and switching off.
Hmm.
And then you're saying when you're moving up is light and when you're moving down is heavy. Do you have a particular sequence or choreography in mind? Like, do you prefer starting light or do you prefer starting heavy?
I think for me, I think it's honestly like the mood I'm in when I'm performing. Because like I noticed that like even when I'm like, in a bad mood and I start performing, I try and like, make the music so it'll like kind of like, uplift me even. Um and yeah, but I feel like I try and start in like a middle area if I don't have like a particular thing I'm trying to experience because like I think what my favorite thing to do as like a performer and an audience member is to like kind of like challenge the expectations and of like an audience. So it's like if they're expecting like, super serious performance, like I try and make it, fun and like really like engaging. But it's also if like the mood is heavy, like I'll like go with that too. So yeah, it's like I most of my sets are like, almost, 90% improvised. So it's just like, trying to like be in tune with, like all of our experiences.
You know, that's that works. It's like really evident. It's like I can see that you do enjoy it and all that, so that was great. And
Thanks.
and yeah, and then stick around because you know there is a group Q&A, so there might be interesting conversations from others. And once again, lovely piece.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad to do this and like it's definitely great to see all like a lot of people I know and people I don't know here. So yes, I'm really happy about this.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have Snow. So Snow, if you are ready, you can begin.
Hey, let me share my screen. Um, hey, I'm Snow. I am someone who likes to code and make things with code. And today I'm going to be talking about live code as a practice of re-relating to computers. So how can re-relating to computers help us better meet each other where we need to be met? So I came to thinking about this after kind of reflecting on how my relationships with computers shape my other relationships, and specifically thinking about like in what ways have the expectations I have for a human to computer interaction affected my expectations for interactions with like living beings, human and non-human alike. So I had a lot of thoughts around this, and I put them into like these three groups: speed, trust, and touch. So each of these is like a way in which computers have influenced how I move through the world. So like with regards to speed, I have noticed that I like move with a lot more immediacy and expect myself to like respond a lot quicker and expect other people to respond quicker and not necessarily in a way that's like natural. With regards to trust, I think that I have like a lot of distrust around computers and especially around what I don't know with regards to computers. And I trace a lot of this back to the materiality of computers and like these technologies that are like the cost of them is like so high and they're hard to access because of that. And it's like, what is the cost of accessing them? What is the cost of misusing them, of breaking them and then having to repair them? And all of that causes me to really doubt my knowledge of computers. And this like distrust in what I know, like deeply restricts how I can interact with the computer. And also it's a mentality that I then carry with me when approaching like other things that I don't know outside of computers. And then thinking about touch, I think that I'm not alone in saying like I experience a disconnect from like physical touch and like the heaviness of an action, because like not like seeing the lasting impact of the interaction that I have with the computer has really like distorted how I understand permanence in the world. And I think that this is really dangerous because like the ways in which I interact with my computer affect virtual space, but they also directly and often violently will impact our like shared physical space. And that happens in like highly highly unequal ways as well. So like that's really dangerous to like be numb to that. And so like I lay out these things to showcase that like computers are shaping how I am able to imagine and cultivate relationships with the living world. In short, I form ecosystems with computers. So with this in mind, how can I tend to computers as I might a garden or any green or brown space that I care for? And how can re-relating to computers like this make space for more nourishing relationships between myself and all living things? So I'm trying to manifest new relationships with computers that are slowed, fleshy, and playful. And I think slowed and playful are pretty self-explanatory, but when I say fleshy, I mean developing some sort of instinctive knowledge of like the fingerprint of an interaction with a computer. And I came to these manifestations after like believing that computers can be these like connective tools. Like they oscillate between like pulling me away from the world and like pushing me closer to the world. But as it stands with my relationship to computers, like I often feel a loss of agency in that oscillation. So I think these manifestations, I came up with them to help me regain some of that agency. So live coding is one way that I get to live out these manifestations and begin to re-relate to my computer. And like revisiting these three groups, speed, trust, and touch. With regards to like speed, when I'm live coding, I feel like I have like all the time in the world because I'm not trying to get to a specific destination or like arrive anywhere in particular. I'm just like giving myself room to be like curious with the computer and like be exploratory, and there truly is no rush. With regards to like trust, this is probably the biggest one for me because I feel like I can reframe the things that I don't know around a computer as like an opportunity to come to knowledge in my own terms. And I see that like using something outside of its intended purpose isn't necessarily like bad or like isn't like it's like an opportunity. It can be like very like generative. And then like with regards to touch, like when I'm live coding, I experience like my computer as like alive. It's like speaking, it's listening, it's responding, it's loud, it's hot. And we like synchronize with each other. And so, in conclusion, live coding is a generative process grounded in unknowing. It is a space for childlike wonder. It is caring for hardware and software as a garden. So when I think about like a garden, I think of like a space that I have knowledge of, but really I don't have knowledge of in the greater sense. Like there are so many processes going on in a garden that I will never be able to see or like be really aware of, but I can still like care for this space and like be curious in this space. And that's really how I feel about live coding as well. Thank you.
That was great, Snow. That was great. If there are any questions, please write them in the chat. And I will start off by asking two questions that I have in mind. I was really struck when you said fleshy and trust, because you also mentioned how you're caring for it as a garden. But also, if you're mentioning the word trust and fleshy, that means that you could it also be that you consider the computer an extension of your body and mind? Because the word flesh, or yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah, that's something I definitely think about. I think like one thing I've been thinking about is like if we can expand like we have hardware and we have software, but like what if we had something like heavyware where it's like we could really feel like the heaviness of our like movement with a computer and like think about like we could feel like the weight of our actions with a computer in the same way that we feel like the weight of our actions as we move our bodies.
Melody has a question. I'm curious if you could share references for your philosophies, like any people, methodologies, experiences that have shaped your ideas.
Um, hmm. I'm extremely inspired by Alice Yuan Jing. Um, they're like one of my greatest inspirations in terms of how they come to technology and tie it into like ecology.
And it's great that you went with ecology, because the next question from Alex says, lovely talk with gardening. I think it's nice to also think about weather, that the garden is like a performance responding to weather. Can you relate to that?
Hmm. That's so interesting. I haven't really thought about that, but I want to think more about that now. Yeah.
I think low key you are though. Because listening to it, because like I said, because when you were talking about heavyware, wouldn't the heavyware be what you are emoting? Because you did mention that when you're live coding, you have the power to reframe. So, so like like when you're watching Marvel, the mutant Storm can control or manipulate the weather. Wouldn't you say that you are trying to do that with live coding in a way?
Yeah, I guess I haven't given it that language yet, but I think a lot of live coding is for me about like building synchronicity with like the things around me. And like if computers are like a big part of my ecosystem, like I'm interacting with them pretty intimately, then it's about building like them, pulling them into that synchronicity as well.
Yeah. Once again, great talk. Nice ecosystem.
Thank you.
And there will be a group Q&A afterwards. So, yes. And next would be Henry. Henry, if you are ready, you can
Yeah.
begin.
Okay. Hello, I'm Henry, and my talk is about a piece I did actually last year, like about this time, and it's called Henrypedia. And I want to talk about like how we do live performance through motion capture, 3D scan, and game engine. Let's get it started. So the concept, I like before this performance, I never do performance. because I feel a lot of performance is like about yourself, and as an artist, I don't really want to talk about myself, even though like art is a lot of time is about myself. So with this like live performance, I really want to like just play and think about play with myself and think about collection. I'm very interested in like data collection. So I'm interested in like how we can archive ourselves, personal history, and just like perform, and also think about like collage and think about like how using like those media technology to perform. And so I will show the performance demo we did last year for 1 minute. I don't know. I don't really like the pressure that myself, putting on myself. It's too much. It's too much pressure. I don't like it. I want to stop. I really do. Yeah, so I want to talk about the process. So last year I took a class, and that class gave us an opportunity to go to NYCPD 3D scan, which is like a scanning space that you can 3D scan your body. And so we did the scan, and after using 3D scan software called Reality Capture, I got a 3D scan of me. And for me, I really like care about like if you don't have this space, how you can do it. But like if you don't have this space, you just like took photos around yourself, you can even get like a similar result like this. Also, then I start thinking about how I can like frame this project. And because in my personal life, people think I know a lot of stuff. So I want to like just think my conversation with everyone like through Chinese social media such as WeChat, and through like Western social media such as Instagram. I just doing like data collections about like those messages I send to people, or people send it to me, and like frame those dialect into like a field recording, or like and doing the Q&As for doing the live performance. So that's the sound part of the performance. Then I did the motion capture. Actually, before, so I was in graduate school. I just graduated like from graduate school 4 months ago from NYU's ITP program, but I took a year off due to COVID from 2020 to 2021. And during that year, I worked as a motion capture in a studio in China. But I wasn't like using motion capture as an opportunity to create artworks. So for this work, I really want to like have an opportunity to think about like motion and movement. And so I went to like NYU's mocap space, and myself as an actor to do those motion capture. And while I'm acting, I don't have like a storyboard or what kind of action I want to make. Rather than that, I have like a list things from the social media. I just like look at them and think about what's the reaction I can have for the mocap. So I took those as a reflection of the social media messages. Then I did like a bunch of mocap. Then I was thinking about how I can build like the performance stage in the virtual space, or how I can build the world. And I found the like a gallery space at the like our department, which is like a history of computers. So those are real computers for like from the 60s to like those ancient computers. And since this project is tightly about like personal history and how my relationship with computer and technology, so I'm thinking, why don't I use that as a like a performance space? So I just took a bunch of pictures and photos about them and use that and doing like 3D scan of them and took that as my 3D space for the performance. Then for the visual effects, I was thinking I'm gonna do it by myself, do all the effects by myself. But on the internet, I found like a Unity developer who has a lot of visual effects just about like using mocap data and like loading those mocap data, and it can become like very powerful visual effects. So I just took that package and doing changes based on that. Then here's the final setup for the project. So everything is loaded in the game engine named Unity, and just doing camera movement and doing all kinds of effects inside the game engine. So the next step, so for the performance I did last year, for the sound part, I wasn't really like I didn't get that much experimental with the sound part, although there's the live Q&A and there's those glitches sound or the field recording. But besides that, the sound is like something I want to experiment more. And so for this year, I did add a max patch, which is just like doing echoes while I'm speaking. It will like doing all kinds of echoes, so I can play with my like live. There's like more playful part of the live sound, and I would like digging into the sound and doing more experiment. And the next thing is like Unreal 5 and MetaHuman is very exciting. Although like I really like Unity, but I would say like with Unreal 5, it's like I can get like way crazier, and so I like use like the 3D scan of my head and load that into the MetaHuman like virtual avatar engine, and that's the like the result I get from MetaHuman. So it's very interesting to see like how we can get with like a 3D scan of our body, and but also there's like a AI generated, but like based on myself's image of my body. So I want to do more experiment with Unreal 5 and move this piece in VR and just like play it in a VR headset. I think that's it. Yep. If you have any questions, don't just shoot me an email. Yeah.
That was great, Henry.
Yep.
I really like that 3D scan, like, really embodiment of your performance. And then the mask. When you do a mask, do you think of yourself being in a different identity, or are you? Because you also mentioned about like you haven't done 3D scans in a while, and also like due to COVID, like you took time off. Does that affect of how you view your identity when you're performing, or yeah?
Yeah, I think especially like as a COVID, I feel like I'm isolated in those computers in the Zoom. So like the picture here is like the performance setup, which is like I made it like a computer head. I'm think of like myself as like on those computer all the time, but uh more scarily is that in the future, if the metaverse is real, then a lot of us gonna be end up with in the metaverse in the VR headset. So I'm always questioning about it. Although I'm like using those technologies, but I'm like kind of against those technologies. I'm like more prefer with like a real life or like go out and like enjoy interact with people and environment, not like just stay with computers. Yeah.
So it's almost like you realize that you are with a computer quite a bit, but you also
Yeah.
want to connect with other people. So you're trying to really think about merging the two of like, how do we stay connected when we
Yeah.
already know that we are connected to technology?
Yeah, especially I feel like I'm more comfort, like I'm being trained by those apps and computers that I'm more comfortable with people that's remotely or that's online. So I feel that's very scary. Like I'm more comfortable with like social media or like online, but like in person, that's like very difficult for me. So I'm like thinking of that, and while I'm doing this piece, I'm like spending so much time on those social media or online. So I'm like, is that really a good thing or not? So I'm not very sure.
Well, that's a good reflection because I like
Yeah.
how you said it. Because we usually talk about how we train AI, but I like how you were saying that we are like this live coding conference, so almost like we're being live coded and live data set by these tools that we're using.
Yeah.
So that's a good food for thought that maybe we will get into it more in the Q&A, most likely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Henry. Stick around. As you know, there's a group Q&A.
Yep.
And next, we have Kate, David, and the Locomotion team for Locomotion Performance. Take it away, Kate and David, whenever y'all ready to set up and your, I don't know what is the name, I guess locomotive or avatars. I don't know the terminology quite yet, but
Yeah, thank you,
team.
Kofi. I'm taking off my co-organizer hat and putting on my presenter hat. So if anyone doesn't know me, I'm Kate Sicchio. I'm here with a bunch of research assistants from both Virginia and Hamilton in Ontario. So we have Shadden, Ashmi, Melissa, Vic, and Esther are all here. And of course, my collaborator, David Ogborn. So we have been working on a live coding language for avatars. We're really interested in both choreographically how we can make them move, but also this concept of avataring itself. What does it mean to have this 3D representation of you in a digital space? But today we're mostly going to just do a little demo performance of what we've been working on. So with that, I'm going to switch to my other screen and start sharing. And yeah, we'll do a little performance for you all. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great piece, great piece. Melody said, "Am I in Narnia?" Debatable. Melody, debatable. So one question I will ask, and then if there's questions, people can ask in the chat. When you are live coding these choreographies, is this similar to coding? Is this similar to dancing? Like, how similar to a dancing do you feel it is?
Yeah, so all of the animations you see that are being live coded are motion capture of some of the dancers here in Richmond who've been working on this project. So there is this like very real connection to movers and bodies. And yeah, it does have, for me as a choreographer, it feels very much like that process of working with dancers and being like, okay, now try it this way. Okay, now try it this way. I think people have this conception of choreographers like walk into the studio and know exactly what they're going to tell everyone and how to move. And that's actually not really how we work. There is like a lot more of like, yeah, crafting movement. And so that process I think is really reflected in this live coding. Like, oh no, okay, like I don't want you to be like this far over. I want you to be this far over. And I don't want you to move quite that fast. I want you to do it, yeah, take twice as long, right? So there is a lot of the choreographic crafting that I feel in doing this. Yeah.
And to ask a question to David, I know you've been working on S3 quite a bit, as I've used the platform many times. Can you explain the difference maybe? Because I know you make in language like punctual and all that, where it's a lot of abstract visuals, whereas in this one, since it's motion capture, there is the sense of like quote unquote real world physics. Does that change the approach of how you view language making or something when you're thinking about embodiment instead of abstract?
Oh, good question. Good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I, I feel like language is always pretty embodied. So, so even with languages like punctual that you refer to, I know what you mean by calling them abstract, but they don't feel abstract to me. They still feel like a tactile surface. It's the 2D surface of painting, rather than this surface. Maybe this isn't really answering the question, but I think that one thing that is kind of interesting about this language, locomotion, from the standpoint of its implementation, is that, and it's something that doesn't, I think, make it different from languages like punctual, is that we're building it on top of 3JS, which is this like really, really amazing library for web-based 3D graphics, and it's huge, and it can do so many things, and it's really built around. It has really been built around this idea of like 3D representational graphics, and so I think one of the kind of cool things about working on this language is like we're tapping into this like existing library of techniques that has already been built around like embodied 3D representations that people are familiar with. So that's kind of cool. It's like there's a lot of stuff already on the table to work with. Doesn't have the same like from scratch feeling that you have when you work on something like punctual.
Yeah. Nice. And now we are going to go into the group Q&A. So people, if you feel comfortable, you can return on your cameras, and then we will get a nice group discussion growing. I will ask the second question of high harmonics on the YouTube chat, because I do think that correlates to everyone. How do you think about moving in the space? So the question was originally about avatar interaction, but I think we can go in. How do you think about the body while you're performing code? And do you actively try to make it different, as we are talking about in Henry, even Snow, even Sabrina, where when you're performing, do you try to do something else to make it sure that you're performing, as we do have daily interactions with computers?
I feel like for me, especially now that I've been doing like longer performances, like 40 minutes long, I like need to actually make sure that I relax my body. Because like I feel like when you're, manipulating a lot of things, you tend to like clamp up your like hands, especially, or you try and like you end up sitting in like a fixed position. So I try and like, sometimes I like just stretch when I'm performing, and I feel like that feels like more natural because it's like, also like we're used to just like sitting at a computer and like being very like stiff and like in a really like not ergonomic or like healthy pose. So yeah.
For me, it's very interesting to think about like body movement and live performance and live coding, because I wasn't doing like live motion capture and like capturing those data before the performance and like performing them like while in the like game engine. So like it's not like real time like body movement in the like I like, so there's like a like disconnection between the movement and like my reaction, because I'm just control the camera to like, or like the staging of the pre-made movement. So I think it's very like interesting. Maybe like in the future iteration of the project, I can like use that code to control those movements, like, but it's like that's pre-ready made, but like doing more like interaction with the code side that's like more playable.
Um, those are, I think I agree with a lot of what Sabrina said is similar to how I experience it. But I think that another part of it for me is like focusing a lot on my breathing, because I think that I want performing to feel kind of like a release. And a lot of that stems from like having consistent breathing, and that kind of shapes my experience as a performer as well.
I think to think about maybe the avatars in this. This was our first time performing with like a backdrop, which really defined the space a lot more. The last time we performed, we just had a floor. So like that virtual space was very different. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having a sense of environment, and I brought my character back and forth a lot more in the space. So there was like a real difference in how I was considering the space. I like almost, I've never thought about space in live coding before this today, like in the same way. Um, Even if I was like doing something with, you know, like spatialized sound or something, like this was very different. And then just to add to that sort of interaction question, part of the question is the one piece we're working towards sort of a gathering, we're calling it, in March, and we'll be working on a piece for that in the Richmond side, where we'll have live dancers and avatars together. So yeah, figuring out how that will interact is like the next step, I think, for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. If anyone else has anything to add, I would ask the next question. There's also a lot of symbolization with health. If you notice, we're talking about breathing, we're talking about stretching. Henry, you were talking about isolation. And even you, David, when you were talking about like there is always an embodiment. So what do you think about the health components now of when you're performing?
Maybe I can start. Like for me, like because this project is actually my first time to trying to perform, so I think like the performance is definitely very nervous. Even like doing the talk, I saw it as pretty nervous, but I saw like the whole like process like it's pretty telling. Because like I'm like viewing like my personal history while I'm doing the performance. I'm like listen to those like conversation I had with my friends, or like It's just like mental healthly, I feel like I'm being relieved. So I'm really glad I did it. Although like it's very challenging as someone never think live performance as a medium, but like using it the first time. So I think, yeah, try it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this question. I think that performing is a care practice for myself, and like I had mentioned earlier, it's about building synchronicity between myself and like the atmosphere around me. So if I'm able to use it as like a tool for me to care for myself, then hopefully that enables me to also like care for the things that are in my surroundings as well.
I could go, definitely, like as someone that has like a lot of health issues, like I need to actually like be intentional with like, eating well before like I perform, making sure like I have water with me when I perform, and also like, pacing myself during the performance, because I feel like it also like I end up being like, you know, in a way communicating with the audience, like as far as my pacing, because like you have to also like pace yourself emotionally when you perform, because you like can't do too much like excitement, like initially you have to kind of like build up to it, or else it's kind of like stressful, and it does take away from like the restorative feeling that I get when I perform, just kind of like Snow said, like with like performing as a care practice.
Kate, David, or any of the performance on locomotion have any thoughts on that question about health and well-being and care?
It's funny, this idea of like live coding and health and looking at things like pacing in performance, because a while ago there's like a lot of people who were making live coding languages where they were like, oh, my focus is to make like a language where I don't feel stressed out, so I can drink a beer while I'm performing and have this like mellow experience. I think that's like worth that about Ixi Lang. He wanted to make a language where he like didn't feel like stressed about performing and could like sit there and chill. Um, yeah, and not like really have to be thinking about what what he was doing. So yeah, so I was just thinking about it in that context, about this idea of like, yeah, um, a lot of live coders try to find ways to make it a less stressful experience, to make it more so they can reach flow, right? And flow is what gives us that, yeah, restorative performance feel. Um, yeah, so that's like a common theme, I think. It keeps coming back up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think something I'm thinking probably goes along similar lines too, which is that I think a lot of live coding practices, because they involve a kind of like constructive play. I don't, and by constructive, I mean that in a very literal sense, like putting things together, taking them apart, putting them together again, that kind of thing. I think that by itself is not something that we can kind of take for granted with computers. Like I think there are lots of forces that are shaping human computer interaction in ways that actually kind of move it away from that free play. And some of these things are even things that are labeled as play in games, like gaming can be also a very not playful experience sometimes. It can be a very tense and agonistic experience. So I think, a lot of live coding practices, just by like kind of giving people something else to do with the computer that's not so goal oriented or not so competitive. I think that there is some kind of contribution to health and well-being there.
Yeah. And also there is a couple things that people wanted to note in the chat. I'm just going to get to that before like we go on. David shared both on the YouTube link, there's something called Ready Avatar 1, which I believe is an open call for submissions. And so Sabrina posted something called Into Sync, which is a show of Snow and other friends where they're organizing an interdisciplinary show about embodiment and process this week in NYC. So if you are interested in those stuff, please check it out as we have those calls. And also Melody also saying that it's a live coding class is having an algorithm being streamed tomorrow. So while we're thinking about all these different forms of live coding and stuff and talking about health and all that, I guess we can talk about rituals for one bit, but like I guess everyone has a ritual they do, right? Or maybe you don't have a ritual, maybe you want one. So y'all can go one by one and just explain, if it's not too personal and if you don't mind sharing, a ritual that you do either during, before, or after you do a performance. One ritual, because some of us might have like 5, 10, but like keep it to keep it to one if you don't mind.
I think my favorite ritual post performance is taking like a mirror selfie at home or like in the bathroom, like where I performed. Because I always look like super tired, but I also look like, you know, like I had a good time. So it's like nice to like collect them kind of like as a souvenir.
I think I just like to like step away from my computer before I perform. I like to dance and like move my body around, and that like situates myself.
Yeah, before performance, I will like just walking around like on the backstage and just wandering and just think outside of what I can do and just clean myself.
It only happens when I play with Cody. But when I play with Cody, I drink ginger ale.
Second, the better, nothing like spicy water. Very somatic experience.
I know for me sometimes it's getting gibberish out. Because sometimes, when you're improvising, you don't know what you're improvising. So, like, one of my rituals actually is just like get things just out of my head. And also restarting my computer. Because computers tends to act up. But I realized that refreshing the computer makes me like, I'm in code mode, I'm in performance mode. And also, I have a lot of tabs open, so like less distracted. And yeah. So, thank you very much for this session. I hope everyone that's watching learn about how when we're coding, we're not only coding, right? We're putting our bodies into the code. And due to the improvisational system of live coding, there are rituals, there are mindsets that go in. It's not just mindlessly sitting on a computer. There are thoughts and feelings that not only dictate how we're going to code, but like you were saying, David and Kate and everyone else actually, that live coding itself is a practice that mimics this and tries to have this as a main influential part of the creative process. So thank you everybody for that. And yeah. And if Kate and Melody have anything else to add about the last 4 sessions before we hand it off to Patrick to have final words.
Yeah, just thank you everyone again for coming and sharing. This was great. Yeah. Yeah. We're very excited to have these, lightning sessions on kind of, everything around the code in some ways. So yeah, I think we really did get to like find some things around, voice, bodies, learning, and identities was our first topic way back yesterday morning. This was brilliant. The three of us are looking forward to doing this again next year. So start thinking about what you want to talk about now. Anything else to concluding thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just to echo what Kofi and Kate just said, I want to thank you all. It was a very thought-provoking past few days and sessions, and I'm very grateful to have been part of it. And big thanks again for being part of this archive. One of the things we talked about yesterday. I guess on that note, let's pass it on to Patrick.
So, hello, everybody. First of all, thank you for all your super nice presentations today and for the very nice discussion. And also, thanks for the invitation to have a very brief introduction to the 7th International Conference on Live Coding that will happen in April in the wonderful town of Utrecht in the Netherlands. So, for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Patrick. I'm live coder from Germany, and I'm not from Utrecht at all. And this is already maybe something interesting about this next installment of the live coding conference in Utrecht. Here is a little picture of Utrecht, so you all want to come and enjoy also the beautiful scenic views. But this installment of the International Conference on Live Coding was organized, or the organization originates from the On the Fly project, which was running for 2 years, basically in the COVID years. So it was a very remote project, which was a Creative Europe project organized or led by 4 organizations, Hangar and TopLab Barcelona in Spain or in Catalonia. There was the ZKM Center for Art and Media in Karlsruhe. There was the Ludmila Art and Science Laboratory in Ljubljana, Slovenia. And then there was Creative Coding Utrecht and Netherlands Coding Live in Utrecht. And we basically are still hanging out in virtual chat rooms and just want to see each other again. And so this is why we are now organizing the conference in Utrecht. Initially, there was a plan to do it in Karlsruhe. This didn't happen, but Utrecht is anyways cooler than Karlsruhe, I would say, as being a long-time Karlsruhe person. So I'd like to invite you all to, if you have not yet checked out the open call for the ICLC 2023 in Utrecht, to check it out. And I also want to invite you all to send your proposals for performances, for papers, for workshops, and also for satellite events. And I want to very briefly maybe talk about the themes, and then also very briefly talk about categories that we have for submissions that are also new to the ICLC and might be interesting to very briefly talk about. Our overarching theme of the ICLC is displacement, a theme that got is a very current theme in many ways. We feel we were all displaced by COVID from our physical spaces years ago, and we still kind of feel it, and we all have made experiences and that we might want to share about. There is ongoing things that happen in the world, may it be ecological or may it be aggression, that forces people to leave their places. And another thing that is now also was not so, or let's say has become a bit more evident also now with ChatGPT, there is a tendency of artificial intelligence to have a potential to not displace the human or the artist itself, but at least to displace certain digital artisan crafts that we might hone and we might want to do. And we feel that the live coding might be interesting in all of these topics. And we invite you to think about this overarching theme of displacement. But very important, the ICLC is open to any topic related to live coding. So also if you feel this is nothing for you at all, displacement, then please still submit your proposal. We also have 3 sub-teams, and I think they're very fitting also for the talks that I heard today. One is trans and interdisciplinary live coding, so live coding in different media, also live coding that happens in different cultures and might not yet be so connected to the live coding community. For example, there is also a lot of live coding happening in the demo scene, but it seems not yet that it has really found itself. Then another topic is human-machine entanglement. We heard about all the embodied and body aspects of your works today. This fits very well. And then also a third category even is the community report, which was also a focus on the On the Fly project, so to say, because the On the Fly project was about building communities and to look into live coding communities in Europe. And the community report is basically a way for local live coding communities all around the world to present themselves, to talk about themselves, to share what they do, either in a written paper or in a video, so that there is a greater exchange of these local nodes, because we all kind of are connected internationally, but still not everybody, like every local community has still their practices and their identities that might not get transported very well over, let's say, Discord or something like this. So please submit. Unfortunately, there is not so much time anymore. So the submission deadline is the 15th of December. And there will not be an extension because we also need to get reviews done. And we also want to send the notification for acceptance in mid-January. So if you have something, still please submit. As a little note, you will have 3 more days until the 18th to finish your submission. But basically the submission record needs to be set up until the 15th. And one special thing I also briefly want to talk about, there is also a call for ICLC satellite events. So this call goes out for event organizers, in particular in Europe, because the main idea is that we create many events, like some weeks prior and some weeks after the ICLC, which will happen in April in Utrecht, so that international travelers can basically make the most out of their stay in Europe. So if you would come over from America, let's say, you might also then have the chance not to only perform in Utrecht, but maybe also in Düsseldorf or in Barcelona, and we all try to line up things a bit. But also a satellite event could equally be something that is happening not in Europe, because not everybody can or want or should sit in a plane and fly to Europe, let's say it like this, for different reasons. So we also are looking forward to events that happen outside of Europe. Could be also a watch party, for example, if you want to gather locally, see the streams, and then you have your own little live coding concert, or just watch the streams together and have some drinks. And yes, the satellite events, you also have a bit more time to submit your proposal. This can be very informal, just say you want to do something, and then we add you to the list, and we will also try to promote your event on the website, and we will try to foster collaboration between all the satellite events and connect artists to organizers, and try our best to make ICLC in Utrecht a memorable international live coding event where we will all have a lot of fun and enjoy ourselves and learn a lot about live coding together and experience a lot of things. So thank you for giving me this brief opportunity to speak, but maybe also in case there is still a bit of time and there might be a question, I'm also here now to answer it. Not sure.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah. This is, if anyone has any questions about submissions or the process. I know I put in one yesterday. I have like 3 more to put in.
Yeah, the submissions will now go up like this anyways.
I don't think live coders are particularly good at like early.
No. Like some weeks ago, like we had like 4 submissions, and like some people were like saying, "Oh, I hope some will come," and then like I was like, "Yeah, you will see." Anyways, if later a question comes, you can also reach it.
Kofi was talking, but we couldn't hear him. We're just getting feedback.
Hello? You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, oh, maybe y'all can read lips. But what I wanted to say is that people that participated in the hybrid live coding interface, a lot of the stuff that you have presented, as you can see in the formats by this ICLC, can be done, right? Because there's video galleries, there's community reports, there's clubs, there's all of this. So there's different ways to be part of it. And like you said, you don't necessarily have to be there, but if you can be there, they're going to make ways to go. And I just want to encourage that a lot of the conversation that we've been having in these 4 sessions do fit, and there is a way to fit. So
yeah, definitely. And also like we will also make we will for sure stream like the ICLC, so that also people who cannot travel can participate. We will also make it work if somebody does not want to travel or cannot travel, to still be able to present, even though of course we all would want to be at the same place, but we will make everything work, hopefully. And it will be also great venues. Unfortunately, I cannot talk about any yet. The local team said no, not yet, because it's not like finished, but it's very cool venues.
Teasing us.
Yeah.
Great.
So, but yeah, if you don't have questions now, but later, you can also ask in the hashtag ICLC channel on the Top Lab Discord, or you can just send us an email and we will try to reply as swift as possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I think with that, we'll probably wrap up this edition of hybrid live coding interfaces. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Thank you everyone who presented over the last 2 days. It's wonderful. We saw lots of performances. Yeah, and we look forward to doing it again next year.
And see you all in Utrecht.
See you in Utrecht. Yeah.